Hello and welcome everyone. Good afternoon to the session Cloud ALM Overview and Roadmap, where we want to give you the latest news on what's available in Cloud ALM and also what's coming up. And my name is Michael Klöffer. I'm the Chief Product Owner for Implementation, and I'm going to take you through our little presentation today. First of all, as an introduction, what is Cloud ALM for Implementation about? With Cloud ALM for Implementation, we aim to give you the tools and the methodologies and the content that you need in your customer engagements to implement SAP solutions, independent of which solution you are implementing, in a harmonized environment. So this covers everything that you need to do in the area of designing the to-be solution, managing the actual project and all the activities during your build phase, managing the tests, and at the end also managing the successful go live. If you go into one more detail here, we typically start with designing the to-be solution. So this means that we offer you capabilities that help you consume best practice content, leading practice content from SAP to run your fit to standard workshops and not start on a blank piece of paper. So by that, I already introduced one of our major content entities that we have in Cloud ALM, and this is the process content. This means the process content gives you the functional view of the solution you want to implement. What are the processes supported in it? What are the roles? How do you execute a business process across your system landscape? And of course, sometimes for some of our solutions, the best practice processes are already a very good starting point. For others that are more customizable solutions, you need to create also your own processes. And also for that, we have a solution within Cloud ALM that allows you to take the best practice processes, copy them to the customer namespace, and then create your own processes in a modeling environment. And then these processes, either your custom created ones or the ones coming from SAP, can be used in the fit to standard workshops to collect additional requirements. And these additional requirements form your backlog for the overall project. When we talk about the build phase, it's always about how do you manage all the project activities that are necessary in order to come to a successful go live. So also here we have a content for you available, which is the Activate methodology. And the Activate methodology is the SAP methodology on how to implement SAP solutions. And therefore we have template roadmaps. So roadmaps consist of deliverables, of tasks, a work breakdown structure at the end, with accelerators that help you go step by step through the project in order to ensure a successful go live of your solution. But also here, we are not only talking about the SAP standard content that we deliver in the form of the Activate roadmaps. We also have the possibility that you enrich it with your own tasks, with your own user stories, and especially important, by taking the requirements from design and breaking them down to user stories, you are also able to run a project in an agile manner, aligned on sprints, with the user stories attached to sprints, with multiple teams running in it, and integrated planning and reporting capabilities that help you always stay on top what's currently happening in your project, find out where you are lagging behind in the project, where are problems that need to be addressed, and really have always up-to-date information on all the activities in your project. And one major part of each implementation project is always the testing phase or the test activities. And the goal of testing is to ensure the quality of the solution that is going live. So this means it covers all the different aspects of testing. So it starts, of course, with user acceptance testing by manual tests to make sure that the end users who actually should use the solution after go live already know what's coming. But also manual testing helps requesters, so business people, to see if the requirements were fulfilled, and the requirements are coming from the design phase, and in testing you then make sure that actually it has been configured, extended, or whatever, to fit the initial requirement of the business person. For manual testing, we have this test step-based approach that you can define a test case, you can define test steps and then execute it and track it together with defect management, of course, to make sure that if anything goes wrong, you can track and follow up on the defects. In addition, we have integration of automated test engines. So this means for the case of regression testing, interface testing, API testing, also there we have capabilities that help customers with automated testing capabilities. And in Cloud ALM, we cover all of these test activities and we put an orchestration layer on top so that you can see, have all the manual tests been done, have all the automatic tests been done, and what's the quality of the solution at the end before the go live. And then speaking of the go live, which is typically the last thing before productive usage, the main important thing there is, or the main important activity there is, to ensure a successful deployment to production. And if you are thinking about SAP landscape in our days, they typically consist not only of a single product or a single instance. So we have many different services in the cloud connected to on-prem systems, connected to third-party systems, maybe even own developed applications on BTP or somewhere else that form a complete solution. And therefore, we need the capability in Cloud ALM of deployment management to make sure that before go live, all the artifacts that have been created, so it could be customizing in an on-prem system, together with configuration done in a SuccessFactors cloud landscape, together with an application that has been built on BTP, together with interfaces that leverage cloud platform integration services. All these artifacts are moved consistently to production at the right point in time. And that's what we do with deployment management, in addition to providing a complete end-to-end traceability and an audit trail so that you can at each point in time see what were the requirements, what were the user stories that actually triggered the configuration, what were the tests that tested that it really runs successfully, down to the transports or to the artifacts which are moved from a development to a quality assurance to a production environment. And yeah, that's our scope in SAP Cloud ALM in implementation. Of course, all of this is part of Cloud ALM, built in a cloud native fashion. We do bi-weekly or twice every second week, we deliver new features to you with this predefined integrated services that run out of the box and are included in enterprise support, so can be used without any additional license. When we go one level deeper, and I don't want to fear you with this slide, I'm not going to go through all of that. I just want to show you that in Cloud ALM, the services, or we have a microservice-based application that consists of many, many services. Like we have a process management service. We now have introduced a documentation service that will evolve over time to a kind of solution documentation, single source of truth. We have the project and task management capabilities, the execution capabilities and the tracking. We have the possibilities for test orchestration and execution. And then, of course, change enablement and deployment orchestration. So, and all of these are connected and are pre-integrated to provide you this end-to-end traceability, starting with the processes and ending with the successful go live. And I already talked about, we have content. So we have content available in the process management area. That's what I explained with the best practice processes. In the area of projects and task management, we have Activate roadmaps. We even have standardized SAP test cases, for example, in the area of SAP S/4HANA. We provide you with standard test scripts that can be imported into Cloud ALM, as well as automated tests that can be executed from Cloud ALM. And we have APIs available on most of these capabilities that allow you to integrate the services from Cloud ALM into existing customer landscapes. And we are extending these APIs over time and providing more with the goal to have really APIs available for everything that we offer in Cloud ALM. There are also separate sessions on that, so join my colleagues on that. So there are three things that I want to highlight on that slide. First of all, we're bringing more tools to our ecosystem. So you probably already heard that we are integrating Tricentis test automation into Cloud ALM. So this is scheduled for Q1 this year. So in the next few weeks, at the point in time of the recording, we want we will give customers a Tricentis test automation tenant as part of the Cloud ALM subscription. So this means you can use Tricentis test automation to create your own test automats, connect them to Cloud ALM, execute them, and all at no additional cost for the SAP landscape. The second thing that we add is SAP Signavio. So SAP acquired Signavio around about a year ago. And we've been working relentlessly with the colleagues to integrate Signavio into Cloud ALM. We're even going one step forward. So as of today, we have an own modeling environment within Cloud ALM that you can leverage to model your own processes. We're currently working to replace this modeling environment with a lightweight version of Signavio Process Modeler. And this will be, again, also integrated in the Cloud ALM subscription, so be able for customers to use for free in the lightweight version. Some restrictions apply there, but I mean, we can go to the details the sooner we get to the delivery, and this is scheduled for Q3 this year. And I already mentioned that we added now documentation to the game. So this is an application that we are currently developing. It's not yet live on production. We currently have the capability to capture notes in a rich text way along the processes to document your solution processes, but we're adding more functionality there with an own documentation application that will come Q2, Q3 this year, that adds functionality that you probably know from Solution Manager, from solution documentation, also with integration into external document management tools. But this is probably for next ALM Summit, a good story that you can see there. So where are we now? We started 2020 with the initial version of Cloud ALM, and we evolved this over time with significant steps like integration of the S4 test automation, having defect management in, having the BPMN modeling capabilities in, having success factors content in. And I would say in the last half year, we again took a major step forward because, as you can see here, in the last half year, we really added major functionalities, like we support multiple BPMN diagrams. We have the S4HANA on-prem content now available. We can now copy and edit best practice processes. We have Ariba content within Cloud ALM. We even have in the meantime content for CX and also for field class we have content in, and we're working to get IBP as well onboarded. So also on the content front, we did major step forwards, as well as on the landscape part, where we have now a solution that enables you to model system groups and attach the system groups to projects. And of course, stuff in the background like the tag management that we extended a lot, that you can now leverage tags in more and more entities, where we started with tasks. Now we also have it in test cases. We also have it in features and in nodes. So we extended the tag management quite significantly. We have the first version of notifications in there, and we are working on enabling email notifications and so on and so on. So I think we are now in a very good position on the functionality side of Cloud ALM. But what I want to go to, and this is also a follow-up of the ALM Summit EMEA and of my keynote, is the transition from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. So we have lots of questions from customers that are using Solution Manager today on how and when should I, consider the move to Cloud ALM. And there are some things that I think are important to understand when we're considering this move. So first of all, here on the left-hand side, you see Solution Manager is a monolithic application that we have built over the years. It's built on the NetWeaver ABAP stack. We leverage CRM for change management or for change control. We have BW for reporting in, and we build all of these capabilities that are connected, even then with Focus Build, providing a turnkey solution on top. When we look on the right-hand side, rather to Cloud ALM, we're talking about a cloud-native solution, microservice and asynchronous event-based communication, built on the BTP, where we have cloud-native mindset, and we also do daily delivery to production in contrast to 2 support packs per year on Solution Manager. It's not only a new application, but it's also for us a mind shift on how we develop software, because we do really this incremental software delivery. And we see also our customers, switching more and more, going away from big bang releases to incremental delivery of smaller pieces of software. And when you compare those 2 things, I already explained on the left-hand side. What I did not say is that Solution Manager was built for the on-prem ABAP landscape of the customer. And many of the functionalities that we have in Solution Manager today is built on the complexity around ABAP transports, around ABAP transport management system, and around the complexity of the customer landscape in on-prem. When we started with Cloud ALM, it was a clear goal not to replace Solution Manager one by one, but have a new and rethought, built from scratch ALM solution for customers in the cloud or customers that are moving to the cloud. And of course, we know that there are hybrid solutions out there, and hybrid solutions will stay for quite some time, the reality of our customers. But we said, okay, first of all, we start with a very limited scope of this cloud-native development and focusing really on the needs of cloud customers. And then we started extending to also cover more needs of on-prem solutions and hybrid solutions. But still, the mindset within Cloud ALM is centered around this open and flexible mindset and around the future solution landscape and how customers can consume Cloud ALM microservice by microservice. So what does this mean for you as a customer? So this means this is the transformation from a classical on-prem focused ALM to a cloud-based ALM is not just a technical conversion. It's not just I take it from here, put it there, and I'm done. It's also a shift in the mindset, because the concepts, and you notice that when we even talk about, the namings, the names of entities that we have in Cloud ALM. In Solution Manager, we were talking about RFCs, we were talking about change documents, we added in business and IT requirements, and so on. So this is basically, I would say, the on-prem language. When we talk of Cloud ALM, we talk about requirements, we talk about user stories, we talk about features. So we really want to also renew our naming and our applications to being ready for the future and what we see where the market is developing to. And so if we look at that from our perspective, all of that you can imagine is a mountain of work. So, and I'm talking here about SAP's work, because what we developed in Solution Manager in the last 15 to 20 years is a lot of functionality, very specialized functionality. And if we want to enable customers to move from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM, we know that we need to deliver also these functionalities over time again. Of course, some of the functionalities are not relevant anymore. So where we said, okay, so this we see in the future, we will probably not need it anymore. So we decided not to do it. But on the other hand side, there are lots of functionalities that we see are relevant also in a cloud world and that we need to provide alternatives for. But these alternatives, as I said, will not be one-to-one alternatives. And when you look at Cloud ALM today, there is one dimension with the supported solutions. So we started with S/4HANA Cloud. So this was initially it was the only solution that was supported by Cloud ALM. But now we have far more solutions supported in there. So we have S/4HANA Cloud, we have on-prem, we have S/4 for subsidiaries, we have SuccessFactors, Ariba, we have even Marketing Cloud, Fieldglass, IBP. IBP will come soon. We have CX and sales we already have in. So I think on the supported solutions perspective, we are pretty complete when it comes to Cloud ALM. The other dimension is, of course, functionality. And when we started Cloud ALM, I already tried to explain that. We said, okay, the first step that we need to take is like climbing the base camp. So we need to lay the groundwork. And this means that we need to establish all the entities, we need to establish all the microservices, we need to being able to relate objects to each other, we need an analytics infrastructure, and we built this now over the years, of course, in Cloud ALM. And the goal of the base camp was to attract new customers. So customers who don't use Solution Manager because it's too heavy for them, it's not the right tool, the maintenance efforts for Solution Manager themselves are too high, and so on. And there we were pretty successful. In the meantime, I think we have around 2,000 customers using Cloud ALM. Of course, these are not customers switching over from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. These are customers who in some cases, or in many cases, never had a Solution Manager. So we established there also kind of a new user base for the tool. And I would say there are still some things to do. So we still need to deliver Tricentis. We have the solution documentation app that we need to deliver. But we already are at this base camp level, and we are pretty mature for these customer segment that we want to address. Now, the next step for us is, of course, to think about how can we make Cloud ALM more and more attractive for existing Solution Manager customers. And there's, again, we know functionality necessary. So customers are requesting more charm functionality, more CI/CD integration. We need to integrate with SAP Signavio to have a state-of-the-art modeling environment. Test planning is also on the roadmap for Q2. And this is our target for this year. So for this year, we want to make Cloud ALM attractive for Solution Manager customers, maybe not for the very sophisticated Solution Manager customers that use Solution Manager end-to-end, that have done many customizations, that have done own developments on top of Solution Manager. But for the average Solution Manager customer, we want to provide a real alternative with Cloud ALM this year. And then the next step is, of course, to look at all the others, the sophisticated customers, the heavyweight customers. So what do we need to do for those customers? And this goes again into the direction of more complex charm functionality, retrofit, cross-system object logs. How do we deal with digital signatures? What do we need to provide to connect external digital signature infrastructure in regulated environments? Cross-landscape distribution, complex landscapes. How do we handle global rollouts, and so on and so on. So there is still a lot to go for the peak, so to say, where our advanced customers are. But in Cloud ALM, as I said, we do daily deployment to productions. We enable features every second week. So we always try to have a meaningful scope for a year, and then we take the next step. So in this year, it's all about how do we enable our customers for the transition to Solution Manager. And there are now 5 more major innovations from my perspective that are important to know, that either are now being released very, very soon, or that will come in the course of the year. And the first thing here, also on the slides, are process hierarchies. So if you remember that we have process hierarchies also in Solution Manager, we have it in solution documentation in the column browser on top, where you can define folders. In a folder, you attach a scenario, a process step. So this hierarchy approach is yet not available in Cloud ALM. But we're currently working on it, and the good news is the first step will be done in 2 weeks from now around. So it's beginning of 23. So in January, beginning of February, we will deliver process hierarchies. So and this will allow you to create a process hierarchy, like you can see it here on the right-hand side. And then in the next step, after we delivered it, we will enable this process hierarchy in all the entities that we have in in Cloud ALM. So you will be able to attach processes to the hierarchy, documentation objects, requirements, tasks and user stories, features and tests. And the difference to Solution Manager is in Solution Manager we had a fixed model of these hierarchies. So there were folders, 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 and then scenario, process, process step. In Cloud ALM, we decouple that. So we have on one hand side the process hierarchy, and on the other hand side, we have all the entities. And you can freely relate. So you can have processes, for example, assigned to each and every level. So there is not the necessity, like we had it in Solution Manager with the scenario, process, process step. So you can really define this freely. And we will do the same for all the other entities, so that you can reuse your hierarchy for testing, you can reuse your hierarchy for documentation, or for processes, or for everything. So you're basically free on how to manage that. And this is, the hierarchy is coming as a first step right now. So it's being, basically people are working on getting it out. And then over the course of the year, we will integrate it into the different entities. The second big entity that is that we're working on is this documentation objects that we're talking. And first of all, we're talking about this new microservice for documentation. So we will have a central source of truth in the solution documentation that will enable you to have documentation objects, and we will have different types of documentation objects. So this could be either based on a rich text editor, this could be an external document with an integration of an external document management solution. We're talking about having the history, having status available, versioning of the documents, having collaborative methods, collaborative functions to work on the documents. And then at the end, we are also aiming to provide a document template builder so that you do not have to work with file-based documentation, but also have a form-based documentation approach in Cloud ALM. And again, these documentation objects can then be related to everything in Cloud ALM. So to the hierarchy, to the processes, to tasks, to requirements, and so on. So we will enable a free relationship model there, of course, later on putting then constraints in. And if you want to know how do we do that and what are the steps in order to get that out, so currently we are here on the left-hand side where we have nodes as an infrastructure, and we extended these nodes in the end of 2022. So we are now having also tagging in there, we're having the possibility to have references in there. But the next major step is to release the new solution documentation app. And this will allow you to have, first of all, the relations to other elements. We will have the versioning, we have different documentation types. Extend import of documents is of course also relevant for customers, the analytics part, and then the integration of other document storage facilities like SharePoint, Google Docs, Content Server, and so on. So we're currently working on that, and this will come over the course of the year. And then the next steps are, of course, the possibilities, like I explained with the documentation template builder, having workflows, having the APIs, creating blueprints out of solution documentation, and the collaboration functions. So we're doing this also here step by step. And our focus for the first half year is really to get this documentation app out and making sure that we have these storage capabilities in Cloud ALM. And the next step, the next big thing that is due also in Q1 is Tricentis test automation. So we already have today test automation integration for S/4HANA Cloud with the S4 test automation tool, which is available only in S/4HANA Cloud. By adding Tricentis test automation to that, customers will get their own test automation cloud tenant. They of course need to run somewhere execution agents to create to run the test scripts. But with the Tricentis Test Automation Cloud, you will be able to test your on-prem landscape together with your cloud landscape, like Ariba, Fieldglass, or SuccessFactors, or when we're talking about S4, either PCE, you can use Tricentis Test Automation Cloud, or S4HANA Public Cloud, you can use the directly integrated S4HANA Test Automation tool. And it is planned that we do that in Q1, and you get the license as part of enterprise support to test your SAP solution. And then, of course, in Cloud ALM, we have the manual testing available, we have the orchestration, we're working on the test planning, and then, of course, also the defect management in case something should go wrong. And then one capability customers always ask about, so, but what's about charm in Cloud ALM? And I think we said it multiple times, charm will be part of Cloud ALM. Again, we will not call it charm. So we renew our language. We renew also the complexity that we have. And just to give you an idea, when we look at Solution Manager, we have IT requirements, we have even business requirements, we have the request for change, and then we have an endless amount of change types for change documents. So normal changes, standard changes, urgent, admin, general, Git enabled, the defect correction. So all of that is available in Solution Manager. When we look at Cloud ALM, we want to drastically simplify the picture. So we're talking about having a requirement as a request entity. We're having a feature to enable the delivery of transports, and we will have a correction in order to fix stuff. So, and of course, we're talking about integrating the approvals, how do we manage the deployment, or the deployment triggers for that, how do we manage the transport creation, the different transport technologies that are there within SAP, and all of that is managed by the feature and the correction. And then at the end, of course, we have user stories and project tasks coming from the project, and those are relating to the requirement and to the feature. But we have a clear separation now between the request entity, the work entity where people work and you distribute work to people who need to do something for a requirement, and the actual collection of the transports and the movement of the transport as part of the feature and the correction. So we really try to simplify also the infrastructures that we have there. And again, how do we do that? So at the moment, I would say we have a change management light in Cloud ALM. So we have the possibility to do this incremental enhancement. We have a replacement for the continual cycle for continuous feature deployment. We have also feature traceability. Of course, there are more steps needed by customers. And the first thing that we want to do is deliver this basic change management. And what we see as most important stuff there is that we also can provide phase cycles. We already have started on that. So we have now releases and deployment plans in Cloud ALM that are integrated with the feature. So the first steps are already done. But of course, we know we need to extend that with the possibility to define even phases for releases and so on. Then customers ask us, can I adjust the workflow? And we are working on how to do that. That's not so easy in the cloud that it was on-prem, because when it was on-prem, basically we shifted the responsibility for the updates to our customers. And if you did changes to the workflows and updated Solution Manager, you needed to make sure to adjust also these workflows later on-prem. If you're talking now cloud, as I said, we have now around 2,000 tenants. We do daily delivery, and if we enable a feature, we enable it on all tenants. So this means that when we allow adjustments of the workflow, we also need to be sure that we can enable new features without breaking customer processes. And this is something that we're currently working on, but we will do it. I mean, there's no doubt that we need to do that, but this will take us also over the course of the year to do that. And then it's, of course, all these technical security functions that we have built in, like the transport of copies, like downgrade protection, or when we go into the more advanced things, cross-system object swap, cross-system reference checks, and so on, so that we want to offer. But also that is clear, and also even APIs for partner enhancements are planned here. So, and then the last piece, and maybe also the most interesting one, is the transition piece. So how will we support customers in transitioning from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM? And the first piece here is, of course, the scope of the transition. So we're currently planning to allow customers to take over data selectively from Solution Manager in the area of project management. So we're talking about tasks, requirements, and so on. We're talking about processes, so the BPMN diagrams, the process hierarchy, the documentation objects, the solution documentation that is attached to that, and we're talking about test cases. So test cases that have been defined in Solution Manager, taking them over into Cloud ALM. What we won't do is take over transactional data. So for requirements, we can take over requirements even today from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM, but our thinking mode is that if you have a requirement running on Solution Manager, you should close it and you should deliver it before doing the switch to Cloud ALM. Same for changes, same for all the other transactional entities that we have. What we also won't take over is, of course, reporting data and analytical data. So and IT service management, I think we discussed lots of times that we will not have a replacement for IT service management capabilities in Cloud ALM. Focus Build is a bit of a special beast. So Focus Build consists, of course, of a methodology and a tool set. So when we build Cloud ALM, we build Cloud ALM with having Focus Build in mind. So, I mean, we know what we need to do in order to enable a Focus Build process. We will not take over Focus Build one-to-one. So again, the naming, there will be no work packages, there will be no work items. We're always talking about requirements, user stories, and features. But we already have today published a methodology how you can run a Focus Build project using Cloud ALM. With less controls in place, with less constraints in place, and with less automation in place. But we are also here wants to extend that to enable you to run your projects there on Cloud ALM. And the second piece of this puzzle is how will the move or the transition to Cloud ALM work? And for us, this is a three-step process. So the first step is to take over the process hierarchy, export it in Solution Manager, import it in Cloud ALM. After that, we can export process model and content. So the processes and the attached BPMN diagrams and so on. So we can export them and import it to Cloud ALM. And with this import, we can also attach them again back to the newly created process hierarchy. And then the last piece is documents and tests. And also here, the idea is that you export that documents, of course, to a file share, and then we import that into Cloud ALM, either by linking it to the file share, or if you move to a SharePoint or whatever, to connect it again. And the same is for test cases and test steps. And you see here one line in the middle. We decided, or we also got the feedback from many customers, that they want to be able to cleanse the data in between, to restructure the data in between. So that's why we have the possibility in between the export and the import to modify the structures, to modify the namings, and we choose Excel as a working tool there. So we export our stuff from Solution Manager to Excel and to the file share, of course. You can then adapt the Excel, and then we import it in Cloud ALM and do all the necessary consistency checks. So, and by that, we will, of course, not only offer you with the tool, but also with services and explanations all around that, so that we can really help you together with the readiness check on seeing, are you ready for Cloud ALM? So this leads me back to where I kicked it off a few minutes ago, but looking a bit into the future. So I explained a lot of these things already now during my presentation. But of course, there are more things that we are currently working on. And I just want to highlight here constraints in processes. So of course, we know for a charm process, we need to be able to govern the process flow and also to put hard constraints in the process flow. So this is also something that we work on in addition. I already talked about the customizing option. The integration of workflow, especially for approvals, is important. Having APIs for the process content, having APIs for the features and for the test cases. And of course, all the integrations that we do with other applications, tools, and services existing within SAP, like the Business Transformation Center that will go GA also, I don't know, in 2 or 3 months. So basically, we have a plan for this year, what we're going to deliver, and I tried to give you the background and what you can expect in the next few quarters. And I hope that this helps you in, first understanding our strategy, and then, but also seeing what's your path to Cloud ALM in the future. And having that said, I would conclude the session. Thank you very much for your attendance, and hopefully see you soon.